The chandeliers were so bright they made the marble floor look wet. Imani Rowe paused at the top of the steps, the red of her dress vivid against the white columns, her locks swept neatly over one shoulder, glossy and intentional, the kind of style that said she knew exactly who she was. The legacy dinner at Whitmore Country Club was supposed to be a celebration of history, donors, and community. But as soon as Imani approached the front doors, the warmth of the building stopped short of her. The hostess's smile arrived first, then her eyes dropped just for a second to Imani's hair, and something in that look turned. Before we get into it, quick one for you. Have you ever walked into a place and felt them judging you before you even spoke? Tell me where you are watching from, and if you're here for dignity, fairness, and real accountability, hit like and subscribe. All right, back to the story. The hostess stepped forward like she was greeting a problem, not a guest. Good evening. Name? Imani Rowe, Imani said, calm, voice even. The hostess tapped on the tablet, eyebrows tightening. Then she offered a smile that did not reach her eyes. I'm not seeing you. Imani held out her phone with the invitation email open. The RSVP confirmation was there, the date, the table assignment, everything. The hostess did not look at the screen for long. She glanced and pulled back, as if the light from it irritated her. That's interesting. Sometimes people forward those. Forward what? Imani asked, still calm. An RSVP confirmation with my name on it? The hostess cleared her throat. Well, we do have a process, and tonight is very formal. Her gaze flicked to Imani's locks again. And we also have a grooming standard for photos and press. It's just to keep things consistent. Imani blinked once. My hair's neat. Oh, I'm sure it is, the hostess said quickly, like she was trying to sound kind. It's just bold. And sometimes donors have preferences. Behind Imani, another couple walked up. White. The man wore a tux. The woman wore a pale champagne gown and diamonds that caught the light like tiny camera flashes. The hostess did not ask them for a name. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Hanley, she said, bright again. Right this way. The woman gave Imani a quick once-over and then looked away like she had finished reading her. Imani watched them glide through the doors like the building had been waiting for them all day. Then she looked back at the hostess. So what's the process for me? The hostess's smile thinned. If you'll just go round the side, she said, pointing with her whole hand, there's an entrance that will be easier, less complicated. The service corridor. Imani followed the direction of her finger. A side passage, a discreet door, a little walkway that hugged the building like it was ashamed to exist. The hostess spoke again, softer this time, almost like advice. I'm trying to help you. It's better if you don't upset anyone tonight. Imani's eyes stayed on hers. You're trying to help me. Yes, the hostess said, relieved. Exactly. Imani nodded once. All right. As she turned, the hostess added one more thing, like she could not stop herself. And if you have something to tie your hair back, just for photos, it would make everything smoother. Imani did not answer. She walked toward the side door without rushing, without shrinking, without letting her steps change. The corridor smelled like polished wood and lemon cleaner. It was quiet except for the distant sound of laughter and clinking glasses from inside the ballroom. At the side entrance, a young man in a black vest and bow tie stood with a clipboard. He looked up, startled by the red dress, then unsure. Can I help you? I'm a guest, Imani said. He glanced past her like he expected someone else to confirm it. You came through the staff corridor. Because I was directed here. His cheeks colored slightly. I am... Right. Could you just... Wait one moment. He disappeared through a door and returned with a thin plastic lanyard. In big letters, it read, TEMP. He held it out like it was normal. Imani stared at it. What is that? It's just so you can move around without trouble, he said, voice small. We do it for, For people who aren't on the list. Imani's gaze lifted. Who aren't on the list? He shifted, uncomfortable. I'm sorry, miss. A woman appeared behind him, older, efficient, the kind of person who enjoyed authority. Her eyes went straight to Imani's hair. Are you with catering? She asked. Imani smiled once, not friendly, not rude, just precise. No, the woman blinked, thrown off. Well, you're in the staff corridor. Because your hostess sent me here. The woman's mouth tightened. She wouldn't have done that unless there was an issue. What issue? The woman hesitated, then decided to try honesty wrapped in politeness. Presentation, she said. Tonight's dinner is legacy. The donors are particular. We cannot have anything that draws attention. Her eyes lingered on Imani's locks and then moved to the red dress like it offended her twice. Imani's voice stayed calm. My hair draws attention? The woman forced a light laugh. It's not personal, it's just the standard. Imani leaned in slightly. Show me the standard. The woman stiffened. We don't have time for this. If you're not on the list, you can't enter through the main hall. Imani looked over the woman's shoulder. Through the crack in the door, she could see the ballroom. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, gold trim, bright lights that made everyone look clean and important. The woman stepped sideways, blocking the view. You can either wait here while we confirm, or you can leave. Those are your options. Imani nodded once. Confirm it. The woman walked away briskly, already tapping her earpiece. Imani waited in the corridor, alone, while laughter swelled on the other side of the wall. Two men in tuxes passed by in the staff corridor, clearly lost, and when they saw Imani, they stopped. One of them raised an eyebrow, amused. Wow, he murmured to the other, not quiet enough. They've got the staff dressing up now. The other man chuckled. Probably for tips. Imani stared straight ahead. A young server carrying a tray of glasses glanced at her, then looked away quickly like he did not want to be caught showing sympathy. Minutes passed. Then a message pinged softly from Imani's phone. A single line. Still on for tonight? Imani typed back. Yes, I'm inside. Let it play. She slipped the phone away. The woman from before returned, expression sharpened. I've spoken to the desk, she said. Your name isn't on the list. Imani's gaze stayed steady. It was on the list when I RSVP'd. The woman's eyes flickered like she hated that detail. Anyone can RSVP to an email. Imani reached into her clutch and pulled out a printed card. Thick, cream paper, embossed gold, Whitmore Country Club, Legacy Dinner, Table 12, her name printed clearly. The woman's face changed. Not softer, worse. For a second, her eyes widened like she had just realized something. Then she squeezed her lips tight and looked past Imani, as if deciding how to handle a fire without setting off the alarm. Wait here, she said, and walked away again, faster. Imani watched her go. She was not surprised, because this was the part that always happened. The moment they realized you were real, they did not apologize. They panicked. A door opened further down the corridor. A man in a dark suit stepped out, crisp haircut, heavy watch, the kind of person who managed people and enjoyed it. He looked Imani up and down, stopping at her hair like he could not help himself. I'm the floor manager, he said. There's been confusion. About what? Imani asked. About your placement, he said, choosing the word like it was safer than the truth. We can still seat you, but not where you were assigned. Why? He gave a small smile. Tonight's layout is delicate. We have major donors, press, you understand. Imani's voice stayed even. I don't understand. His smile tightened. We also have standards. His eyes flicked to her locks again. And we cannot have anything that looks unkempt. Imani's jaw hardened just slightly. My hair's not unkempt. The manager raised his hands like he was soothing a child. Please don't make this a scene. He said scene like he already pictured her as the problem. Then he gestured. Come, I'll show you your table. He led her through a side door and into the ballroom. And the room shifted, not because of her dress, because of what it represented. Heads turned, conversations paused, eyes followed her like she was a disruption. Imani walked like she belonged there anyway. The manager guided her past the center tables, past the front row where the richest people sat, past the raised platform where microphones and a podium waited. He did not stop until they reached the far edge, behind a pillar, near the kitchen swing doors. A small table sat awkwardly, like it had been added last minute. The place cards read, "Overflow." Imani looked at it, then she looked at him. "So you brought me from table 12 to overflow." He nodded as if it was reasonable. "It's still a seat." Imani glanced around. At the center tables, laughter was louder. Lighting was softer and warmer. Photographers hovered nearby. At overflow, the light was harsher. The air smelled faintly of food service. And every time the kitchen door swung open, it exhaled heat. A woman at the nearest table leaned toward her friend and whispered loudly enough to be heard. "They always make a fuss. If she didn't want attention, she wouldn't wear her hair like that." The friend laughed. Imani breathed in slowly through her nose. Then she stepped behind the chair and placed her clutch down carefully. The manager watched her, almost disappointed she had not erupted. Then a waiter hurried by and bumped a tray. A glass tipped. Champagne splashed across the side of Imani's red dress, dripping in pale gold streaks. The waiter froze. "Oh my God," he stammered. A man nearby chuckled. "Well," someone said, amused, "that'll teach her to stand there." The manager sighed as if this was Imani's fault too. Then he pointed toward the waiter's tray. "Since you're standing," he said louder, "take those to table 6. Imani turned her head slowly. "Excuse me." He blinked. "Table 6 needs glasses. We're busy." Imani stared at him. "You think I work here?" His cheeks reddened. "No," he said quickly. "I just assumed, you're by the kitchen, and you came through the staff corridor." A few people nearby laughed quietly, enjoying the embarrassment like it was entertainment. Imani looked at the tray, then at him, then at the room. Phones were out now, discreet, angled just enough to capture her reaction. This was their favorite part, watching a black woman get pushed until she snapped so they could call her angry. Imani did not snap. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a clean white handkerchief. She dabbed the champagne from her dress, slow and controlled, then folded the cloth neatly and placed it back. The manager's smile returned, smug. "Good," he said, voice low. "See? No need for drama." Imani looked at him. "Who told you to move my table?" He frowned. "That's not your concern." "It is if you edited the list." His eyes flashed. "Nobody edited anything. Your name just isn't appropriate for tonight's list." Imani's gaze narrowed. "Appropriate," he exhaled, irritated. "Look, this is a private club. We decide who belongs." The words hung in the air. Belongs. Imani nodded once like she was filing it away. Then she reached for her phone. The manager stepped closer quickly. "Phones aren't allowed in the ballroom. Club policy, especially for staff." Imani looked up. For staff. He realized his mistake, too late. The laughter nearby sharpened. Imani did not argue. She simply raised her phone and called someone. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, quiet. "You seeing it?" the voice asked. Imani glanced around at the people watching. "Yes," she said, loud and clear. She ended the call. The manager frowned. "Who are you calling?" Imani slipped the phone away. "No one you need to worry about," she said, and then the room's lights dimmed slightly. A soft bell sound chimed. A man in a tux walked to the podium, smiling wide. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "welcome to our annual legacy dinner. Tonight we honor tradition, excellence, and the community that has supported Whitmore for generations." Polite applause filled the room. Imani watched the stage. She watched the president of the club seated near the front, laughing with donors like he owned the air. The manager leaned in close, voice low, threatening. "If you cause any disturbance, we will remove you. Do you understand?" Imani looked at him. "Remove me?" "Yes." He smiled like he enjoyed saying it. Imani glanced toward the nearest security guard by the wall. Then she sat down in the overflow seat calmly, hands folded, posture perfect. The manager looked unsettled by her lack of fear. The president stood to speak next. He was a silver-haired man with a warm voice that sounded like trust, the kind of voice people believed because they wanted to. "We are proud," he said, "to announce that Whitmore is entering a new era. A supporter has come forward to secure our future." The room leaned in. Whispers surged. A supporter, a savior. The president smiled. "This individual is discreet," he continued, "but their commitment to our legacy is extraordinary." Imani watched him, expression still. The president lifted a glass. "To the future." The room erupted into applause. Imani clapped politely. Then, a woman at a nearby table leaned over to her friend and said, "Smug? See? This is why they keep standards. It protects the club." Her friend glanced at Imani's locks and laughed softly. "Imagine showing up like that and expecting a seat up front." Imani exhaled slowly. Then she stood. The manager snapped toward her. "Sit down." Imani did not. She walked toward the stage with steady steps, the red dress cutting through the room like a signal flare. Heads turned. Conversations died. The manager moved quickly, trying to intercept, but a board member stood from a nearby table and raised a hand. "Let her pass," the board member said, voice tight. The manager froze, confused. Imani reached the steps of the platform. The president paused mid-sentence, smile still plastered on. For a moment, the room held its breath. "Ma'am," the president said politely into the microphone, "this is a private program. Please return to your seat." Imani looked out at the crowd. Then she looked at the president. "I'd like to call an emergency board vote," she said, clear and calm. "Right now." A nervous laugh rippled. The president chuckled into the mic. "Well, that's ambitious," he said, patronizing. "And who are you exactly?" Imani reached into her clutch. She pulled out an envelope, thick, sealed, official. She held it up. Then she looked at the club solicitor seated near the front. "Mr. Harland," she said, "you recognize this package?" The solicitor's face drained. He stood slowly, as if his chair had become dangerous. The president's smile faltered. Imani's voice remained steady. "This is the assignment of debt and deed of trust on Whitmore Country Club's mortgage, purchased legally through Rowe Capital Partners." A wave moved through the room. People murmured, confused. The president's jaw tightened. "That's not possible," he snapped. Imani turned slightly, letting the room see her profile, her locks gleaming under the chandeliers, her calm unshakable. "It's possible," she said, "because the club has been bleeding money for years, and someone here thought no one would ever notice." The president's face flushed. "This is a dinner," he hissed into the mic, "not a courtroom." Imani nodded. "Funny you say that." She reached into the envelope and pulled out a slim folder. Inside were copies, screenshots, timestamps. She held them toward the solicitor. "This is the off-book guest approval list," she said, with coded notes, including instructions for service entrance only and no photos based on hair and appearance. The room went still. The president's eyes widened. The manager near the back stiffened like he had been punched. Imani's gaze swept the room. "Tonight your staff told me my hair was too bold, too unkempt, not appropriate. Tonight your manager handed me a tray because he assumed I worked here." Murmurs grew louder, uncomfortable now. Imani continued. "And tonight, while you were applauding a mystery supporter, your system was editing my name off the list in real time." The president grabbed for control again, voice rising. "This is slander." Imani held up her phone. "It's recorded," she said simply, "because I knew you would say that." The president's mouth opened, then closed, because the solicitor was already moving toward him, whispering urgently. The president's confidence cracked. Imani turned back to the microphone. "I'm not here to embarrass this club," she said. "This club embarrassed itself." The line hit like a slap. A few people gasped. Imani's voice softened slightly. "I'm here because Whitmore is in breach of its debt covenant and its compliance obligations. This dinner was meant to secure signatures that would keep the same leadership in place. She looked directly at the president. And I'm not signing anything that protects discrimination. The president tried to laugh again, but it sounded thin. You can't just take over, he said. Imani lifted another page. 2 board proxies, she said. Signed, valid, collected from former board members pushed out after raising concerns about exclusion. The board members at the front shifted, faces pale. Imani continued. This is not a hostile takeover, she paused. It's a reset. The president's hands trembled slightly as he gripped the podium. The solicitor leaned in again, whispering into his ear. The president's shoulders sagged like someone had finally cut the strings holding him up. Imani looked out at the crowd once more. You all came here for legacy, she said, so let's talk about what kind of legacy you're clapping for. Silence. Then a voice rose from the back, an older black man, dressed in a simple suit, standing slowly, eyes wet. My father tried to walk into this club in 1968, he said. They told him round the back. He came home and never spoke about it again. The room did not move. Imani's throat tightened, but her voice stayed clear. Not anymore, she said. She turned to the board table. I am calling the vote. The solicitor nodded, grim. Board members stood, papers moving, hands shaking, eyes darting as the room realized this was real. The president tried one last time. This is a misunderstanding, he said, voice breaking. We are not like that. Imani looked at him. You are exactly like that, she said quietly. You just never expected it to catch up. The vote happened quickly. The board chair, trembling, announced it into the microphone. The motion passes, she said. Effective immediately, the president is removed for misconduct and breach of club governance. A collective inhale swept the ballroom. Some people clapped without thinking. Others sat frozen. The president stood there, mouth open, eyes searching for someone to save him. No one did. Security approached him, not rough, not dramatic, but firm. The same kind of firm they wanted to use on Imani. The difference was, now the room saw it clearly. As the president was guided away, the manager who had tried to hand Imani a tray backed toward the wall, shrinking into himself. Imani stepped down from the platform, walked straight toward him, and stopped. He could not look her in the eyes. I'm sorry, he mumbled. Imani stared at him for a moment, not with rage, with clarity. You were not sorry when you thought I had no power, she said. His face burned. Imani turned away. She walked to the hostess station at the main entrance where the original hostess stood, pale and shaking. The hostess whispered, I didn't know. Imani nodded once. I believe you didn't know who I was, she said. The hostess flinched. Imani continued, voice low enough that only the hostess and a few nearby could hear. But you knew what you were doing? The hostess swallowed hard. Imani stepped back toward the room. The board chair approached, voice tight. Ms. Rowe, she said, what do you want? Imani looked around at the chandeliers, the tables, the polished traditions. Then she looked at the people who had stared at her like she was a stain on their carpet. I want the staff protected, she said. The ones forced to enforce this, they keep their jobs, no retaliation. The board chair nodded quickly. Yes, of course, Imani continued. I want the discrimination list destroyed. I want an independent review published, and I want a real reporting channel that doesn't disappear complaints. More nodding. Imani looked toward the overflow area where she had been placed like a secret. And I want the legacy fund rebuilt, she said, not as a tax write-off, as scholarships and mentorship for local teens who've been told they don't belong anywhere. A few donors shifted uncomfortably. Imani did not care. And finally, she added, I want lifetime membership offered to the black families this club turned away for decades, not to beg for acceptance. She paused, to reclaim what was denied. Silence held the room. Then a woman in a blue gown stood, eyes glossy. My grandfather was turned away too, she said quietly. He lived 2 streets over. He used to watch the golfers like it was a different world. Others began to murmur. A few older members looked ashamed. Some looked angry. But the room could not pretend anymore. The board chair swallowed. "We can do that," she said. "We will." Imani nodded. "Good." She walked back toward the center tables. A server approached hesitantly, the one who had looked sympathetic in the corridor. He held out a napkin and whispered, "I'm sorry they did that to you." Imani took the napkin gently. "Thank you," she said. Then she glanced at his name tag. Elliot. She remembered it, because power without care meant nothing. Later that night, as the dinner continued under a different energy, a microphone was passed again. This time, not for a speech about legacy, but for a statement. The board chair stood beside Imani, voice shaking but honest. "Tonight," she said, "we failed someone we should have honored. We used standards as a weapon. We used tradition as cover. We are sorry, and we will change." The room listened. Some people clapped, not the excited clapping of a celebration, the uncertain clapping of people realizing the world had shifted and they could not stop it. Imani stepped forward to speak last. She did not raise her voice. She did not insult anyone. She simply said, "They tried to make my hair a problem. Tonight, it became the proof." And then she looked out at the crowd. "If you ever see someone being pushed to the back," she said, "don't wait to see how they react. Step forward, because dignity should not depend on who owns the building." She handed the microphone back, and as she walked down the aisle between tables, the same people who had stared at her earlier stood to let her pass. Some could not meet her eyes. Some whispered apologies. Some just watched in stunned silence. Imani did not need their approval. She had never needed it. Outside, the night air was cool against her skin. She stood on the steps again beneath the white columns, the club behind her glowing like a stage. Her phone buzzed. A message. "You good?" Imani typed back. "Better than good. We changed it." She slipped her phone away and looked at the sky, not because she was proud of humiliating anyone, but because she was proud she didn't become what they expected. They wanted her to break. Instead, she became the turning point. And if there is a lesson in that, it's this. Some people will test your dignity because they think you have no power, but your dignity is the power. Do not let them turn you into a reaction. Turn yourself into a result. And when the doors finally open, don't just walk through. Hold them open for the people they tried to keep out.